discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. My name is Justin Brown, your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, and I present to you guys tonight episode 22 concerning residential investigations. You know, you guys vote on the topic for the show each week, and you guys' voices have been heard this time around, so that's what we get to talk about. But before we do that, I want to say hello to our chat moderators on Facebook and YouTube tonight. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hi. How have you been? How was your weekend?
It was very stressful, but everything seems to be okay now. My stepfather, he has, for the ones that you don't know, my stepfather has been battling leukemia. So, and he was starting to crash, but he's doing a lot better now.
That's awesome. Glad to hear that.
Thank you.
So, Derek, hopefully everything's going good on your end.
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Not a whole lot going on. Back to work Monday, Tuesday.
Nice. So work's not too stressful. You're ready to get this show going, and should be an interesting topic, right?
Oh yeah, very interesting. A lot of people have different views on, personal, private investigations of people and not actual locations of historical significance.
Right. So, if you guys are new to the show, how the show works is you ask me questions if you would like, and if you do, Derek or Jessica, whichever platform you're on, Facebook or YouTube, they will periodically, I will ask them periodically what's going on in the comments, and we'll read off your comments and questions. You know, we will shout you all out, so if you want to be shouted out on the live stream, make sure you comment so we can see who is watching. And we are going to have a discussion about what I think about residential investigations, and I want to hear about what you think, and we're going to try to break down all the things that I think are important about them, and we're going to have, a fun time discussing this and growing together as a paranormal community and learning from each other. So that's the goal of this show, and let's get this started. I think back in 2013, when I started doing the field research, I was trying to rely on the residential case. The reason that is I really didn't know what was out there to investigate. I was very ignorant to the whole, how do I get an investigation? What do I go do? So I watched a lot of ghost hunters in the beginning, and that is initially what got me interested in doing it. And they do it. They, in the beginning of their television series, they did a lot of residential investigations. So I thought that was very interesting, and I had some desire to do that because, I experienced stuff like people experienced on the show, experienced weird paranormal, shenanigans growing up and in my early and mid 20s. So I wanted to see if other people were experiencing it. I wanted to know if I could, learn more and help others while doing all that. So I would, get the word out, let everybody know, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm learning, this is what I'm passionate about. I got a group together, and I started, putting the word out that I, was interested in investigating paranormal phenomena in people's homes, businesses, and elsewhere. So I would, the few residential cases that I would get were friends and acquaintances and stuff like that. And that's how a lot of people start off. But over the years, after doing many, many, many cases, I learned some things, and we're going to definitely talk about that right now on the show. But at any point in time, if you have any comments, questions for me, we will address them very soon. So one of the very first things I've learned is that there is a liability for you, the members of your group, and for the people, your clients involved. There are some legal matters to bring up and to address, and there's also there's aspects of ethics, and I think there is um, an obligation to do what you set out to do. And what I mean by that is you need to do what you know is right, and there should be some ethics involved. Um, a lot of times we set out to do what we think is right, but we end up doing some things wrong, and we make some mistakes along the way. So, what we'll talk about first is what the do's, the rule of thumb, what the do's and don'ts are, and what I've learned what they are over the last 5 years. What you don't want to do is turn your residential investigation into your favorite TV show. You don't want to rely on the paranormal investigation at the person's home as content for your online TV show, your documentaries, your content that you put out there for people to watch. It causes a lot of issues. Of course, there are some benefits from people seeing a production or a video or some type of publication of a residential case, but there are good ways to go about that and bad ways definitely to go about that. We'll talk about them. What I learned firstly is you want to try to weed out a lot of the people who love the paranormal like you. They watch all the TV shows and they kind of want to turn your group into a television series, a paranormal television series that will come into your house and, make a video or turn it into a television production for their own enjoyment because they are curious about their paranormal, even if it's going on or not at their house. They see it as a form of entertainment. So the first thing I ask when people come to me now and seek my advice, a lot of them are curious about what may be in their home, and some have actual issues where they're being disturbed. And the first thing I try to figure out is, okay, what is your idea of what I can do for you? Like, what is the expectation that you have for me or any other paranormal group to come in your home to provide for you? What service could we provide? And as long as you're upfront and honest with them and try to get those answers initially through the gate, then you can kind of see if your presence in their home, investigating whatever they believe is there, is worth your time and their time. So what we want to do is not make things worse. We don't want to feed into paranoia. We don't want to feed into this whole paranormal pulp culture that we're trying to address. So if it looks like the client is legitimately dealing with things, especially when there's kids involved, or people that are innocent or are too weak or young or incapable of protecting themselves, those are the cases that I would like to see legitimate paranormal teams go in and help. Outside of that, your involvement with their case should be very limited, and we'll go over what I do, and I would like to know what your opinion is about what you guys do on your team. So a lot of the things I've seen is you meet up with people that are into the paranormal too. They say their house is haunted or they got stuff going on. You go in there, you investigate, you become friends with these people through this interaction. And a lot of times it can cause problems. There can be drama started. Your involvement going into their home and doing this thing can cause problems with the client's family. Like, you can add to the drama that's already going on there. Let's just face it, family life can be volatile. So you could be going into a volatile situation. What we paranormal investigators find ourselves doing a lot is being therapists to a lot of people. Because, they could be dealing with normal, everyday life stuff mixed in with this belief that they're dealing with a haunting. So you end up, having empathy for these people, wanting to be friendly with these people, and going outside the realm of addressing and investigating the stuff that they say that's going on, and you start being their friend, taking their phone calls, establishing relationships with them. And I find that to be problematic most times, not all times, but it could be most times. You don't really know these people, they really don't know you outside this whole situation. So that could be one of the things you might want to think about. But the ethics involved, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I think that everybody can agree that when you go in there, you need to establish a baseline. You need to do all the proper historical research. You need to interview everybody in the house that's involved or have witnessed the paranormal phenomena. And you need to start finding alternate explanations for everything they report. And if you want to do them, if you want to do a good job for them, that's what everyone should be doing right out of the gate. Once you've exhausted all those things, if things still remain unexplainable, then you can explain to them, hey, we can't explain some of these things. We may or may not have experienced those things while investigating your home. If you have experienced those things while there and you have no explanation for them, then further investigation should happen if that's within your, ability to do so. If you have not experienced them, you need to let them know, hey, we didn't pick up on anything. We couldn't find any explanations for the stuff you report, but I want you to get back to us if you experience them again. And based on how they behave and the frequency that they report back to you with all this stuff will give you an indication what you're dealing with. Okay? A lot of these times you're dealing with psychology. A lot of these times you're dealing with real paranormal phenomena. And I believe that real paranormal phenomena is rare, even in the extreme cases. And in the extreme cases where stuff happens a lot, they're subtle things. And in a disturbing case where they're actually being attacked or being disturbed, it's very, very rare that people have physical manifestations like scratches, having their sleep disturbed. Those types of things you see in horror movies are super duper rare, but they do occur. Okay? And a lot of times when that happens, you may need to, recruit additional help outside of your paranormal group unless you have a really good metaphysicist or shaman or something that can deal with whatever's going on. But generally, outside help could be needed in those cases, in those rare cases. But the ethical thing to do is to be very honest, not feed into any hysteria, delusion, or preconceived belief. There's a lot of confirmation bias out there. There's a lot of psychology out there that people aren't aware of. And us as paranormal researchers dealing with this thing a lot, and over the years after you learn, there's a lot of psychology out there that people are dealing with that's just simply not paranormal. They'll show you pictures with pareidolia, dust orbs, or explainable anomalies in photographs, a host of things that we've talked about in the show, and I'm sure you all have talked about. But before we go into the comments and the questions and shout outs here, I just wanted to address up front that ethics are very important in how you lead into the investigation initially. What I generally do is I talk to the client on the phone. I hear their story. I ask them questions. I let them know. I ask them. What is your expectation for us? What would you like us to do? Most of the people are just curious about it. Some people want it gone. Some people, they're ready to move and they want you to give them an excuse to move. In some cases, I've experienced that. So I want to hear from you guys what you have experienced in residential cases, what your do's and don'ts are, what your pet peeves are, and all that. So let's get over to moderators and start the shout outs, and then we'll start getting into your guys' comments.
On the YouTube side, Truth is on, Truth Paranormal, Scott Carter, Buzzard Deity. That's it. That's commenting right now.
Okay.
But Scott said to try to also try to find causes for their claims that may be outside the paranormal.
Right.
Buzzard asked, have you ever had a residential place that you wanted to investigate at, but you were not allowed to?
A residential place, like someone's home?
Yes.
No. Nope.
Okay. Okay, Truth said, another thing people don't think about when they do residentials or even commercial investigations. If you have an attachment, don't investigate. You can contaminate your evidence with your own attachment.
Right. If you believe in such things and you believe that you experience those things, from being subjected to multiple hauntings all the time and dealing with the paranormal, please learn how to deal with that yourself before you bring it in to other places. Absolutely.
Scott also said, and people will get pissed off at you if you tell them that their ghost isn't really a ghost.
Yes, and that's one of the things that you're going to have to deal with, and that's all. And those are the things you have to fill out with the initial interview. If I feel like they're very confrontational, and I asked them straight out, it's like, how would you feel if I told you that all the stuff you're experiencing is not actually ghosts, and I can explain it all? You ask them those kind of probing questions, and you kind of get feedback. The feedback that you need is, how are they going to react to these potential outcomes when I go to their home and do all these things? So Scott, being in law enforcement, he would be very, very good at doing this, and that's one of the reasons why I liked him being in the group and doing the residential cases. Very good skill set to have.
Absolutely. Yep, that's it for YouTube.
I know Facebook is lit up. Derek's gonna take a little bit of time.
Yeah, just a few. So far, let's see. Daniel Everson's watching. Chris Houston, Scott Carter, Sandy Griffin. I know there were some new ones that popped up. I got to get through everybody else. Heather Elliott, Dan Porter, Nelson Nouse was watching. Eddie Parks.
What's up, Eddie?
And let's see if we got anybody new. Landon Wells jumped on. And that's it for our viewers. Now let's get back up to the questions. Trying to get to the very first one. A lot of side chatter about pretty much the topic of residentials.
Mm-hmm. Just skip through that and just go to the questions right now.
Right. We got, I think Heather Elliott asked the first question. It was, what types of things should the team have in a liability policy?
Good question. I have asked myself that question, and I think the best thing that I found out to do is to be an actual LLC. If you become a limited liability company, that will protect you and give you some, benefits of, certain things that you wouldn't have otherwise. One of the best benefits is, in the case that you're being sued, like if you go in and cause damage, or if they're trying to sue you for hell knows what else, there is a large spectrum of things that somebody can come back at you on after doing an investigation. An LLC will pretty much protect you from some outrageous sum of money that someone's going to sue you for. They can't sue you more than what your company's worth, as far as I remember, for an LLC. So if you're just a small LLC and a paranormal research team, they're not going to be able to sue you for more than you're worth. So that is extremely helpful and beneficial to you in your research group. There are some things that that are cool when it comes to if you're going to be a profit-based group. If you go in and do places that cost money, if you do some type of events where you sell merchandise, or if you do like video production like our group, there are some benefits there. A lot of places, it might be a good idea to get bonded. And when you get bonded with your client or your location, that will protect both sides from potential things happening to their business, with their home or with your group. So definitely look into getting bonded with certain places. There's a lot of places that we want to investigate, but they require to be bonded because of that. So a lot of them are businesses. I really haven't had a residential case say that they want to be bonded. The businesses are huge on that. But when you go into a home, you can cause damage to their property. You can cause damage to the psychology of the people in there. You may tell them that there's something in there and they may freak out. You may tell them there's nothing in there and they may get pissed at you and lash out with a lawsuit. They may, they get mad at you and tell you that you stole something. Like, all kinds of stuff can happen, as you guys can imagine. So I know a lot of groups out there that get their LLC, and a lot of groups out there, they may get bonded and with certain things. So hopefully that answers your question.
Cool. And then Chris pointed out a comment on one of the initial topics you were talking about. He said personal situation often has to be separated if you film in a home. Consideration of others in the home, conditions that can worsen things avoided, and limitations in place to really consider the point when you are no longer there. I think he was kind of summing up a lot of the things that some of the questions everybody was asking, how to cover your own rear end.
What we tried to do in all scenarios is get paperwork that gives you written permission to use your recorded media in their home, of their face, of their identity, all of that. Make sure you get their written consent to investigate their home, to film them, to use their name on any publication. That's definitely something that we're going to talk about on the show, and that's very important.
Cool. Heather Elliott had the second question. She said, how do you approach cases that involve a child where the activity is happening with the child only? I would not want to inadvertently make things worse or feed into anything that isn't really paranormal. That really goes for anyone of any age, but specifically with children. I feel it's a different ballgame.
It is, and you got to be extremely tactful and careful. The first thing I look for is physical manifestation. Scratches, bruises, bodily harm. Clear, documented bodily harm. If none of that's happening, you can wipe the sweat off your brow at that point. Suggesting things in a tactful way, and this could be tricky. Child psychologists are very good at dealing with children who report paranormal phenomena. Sometimes you have to go outside of your local community to do that. You have to do a lot of research. You want to find a psychologist that's open to the whole paranormal phenomena ideals. Like, just talk to them, kind of screen them. You don't want them coming in closed-minded in case that they are experiencing something. But this would, depend on your insurance and your resource to be able to, get that type of service. Maybe have somebody in your group that is a trained child psychologist. That would be insanely useful if you have that option. There are signs. If you're a good investigator, in some cases I have looked through people's Facebook, looked through people's personal belongings and stuff. If you're a good investigator, you will find clues and little flags that will indicate to you and tell you if the child is imagining it or not. And I'll give an example. Okay. In one case I did years ago, this child reported seeing a blue man. Seen a blue man in his bedroom, seen a blue man in his living room. And of course, mom and dad were concerned. And they wanted to know what I thought. And I'm like, okay, well, I investigated the home. I didn't find anything that would indicate a presence of anything. So what I did was I started snooping their Facebook. And it took a while. But I found a Christmas, a letter addressed to Santa Claus. And the child in question, or the subject of this conversation, was writing to Santa and telling Santa what he wanted for Christmas. And everything he wanted to Christmas was blue. I wanted a blue, a blue baseball bat. I wanted a blue transformer. I'm just filling in the blanks here, but everything was blue, and it was obvious that his favorite color was blue. So that is one thing that you would want to take from that. He's explaining something that he's seen that was blue. So, and then everything that he likes is blue. So that might be a clue to tell you maybe this is something that's not actually happening. Maybe this is something he's adding to it or just making up altogether. So you have to make judgment calls. What we do in the paranormal field in residential cases deals with judgment calls all the time. But I want to emphasize, if they're not dealing with any immediate physical manifestation, bodily harm, or harm to self, dealing with, the alleged paranormal activity, if that's not happening, then there's no reason to pry or to worry, and you should express no concern to the client's parent, to the parents of the child. So hopefully that answers that.
That was all of the questions that we had on Facebook. The rest of it's all side conversations.
Awesome. I love that I figured that this whole topic would, start the conversations, and that's what's great about the show, because people get to talking, and through their own interactions, they will become better and see other people's points of view. Keep that up, guys. Is YouTube clear still, Jess?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no questions. Truth is just, stating what he has done.
Yeah, I see Chris Houston throwing in a lot of stuff about nonprofit and LLC. So keep that up, guys. I will come back to you guys.
Right.
All right, guys. Awesome that you guys are interacting in the chat and doing what I want you to do. Okay. A lot of people that have been in the field for several years now, but they're concerned and they want to keep helping people. This is what I have done. And in my case, I'm extremely lucky because my mother is a very gifted metaphysicist. I don't like labeling people as psychics, mediums, empaths, because we really don't understand the phenomena to the fullest extent, in my opinion. So I don't really like to label it, but there is a ability that people have that, the word or term metaphysicist kind of covers everything. So that's what a term I like to use, and a lot of people agree with that. So I subscribe to that. So what I'll do is I'll offer that service. It's like I'll come in, bring my mother, see if she can pick up anything, and if there's something concerning there that she picks up on, or just, as a normal precautionary measure, we'll do cleansings for people. That could be psychological. That could be, that can directly involve cleansing a location. I kind of explained to him the cleansings that we do is more or less like, fumigating someone if they had pests. You can do preventative stuff. It's like cleaning the house. It can get dirty again. You can explain to the client that their behavior and their intention and their actions contribute to what's going on. So I think that's important too. If they bring in, if they're fighting amongst themselves, if there's dysfunction in the home, if they're doing things like drugs and alcohol, all these negative things carry with them psychokinetic potential to influence, impact, and, modify any paranormal phenomena that could be happening in their home. It's very important that we do a lot of research on this, and a lot of times, including my own group, we're very limited on what research we can do. But what we can do is just keep doing the cases, writing down all the notes, and keeping all the logs of the things happening in these homes and what is the outcome over periods of time. So I want to stress, if you have a residential case that you're working on, don't just go in there, get the EVP, and just say, I'm done. Because I don't every single week I get called, emailed, messaged about somebody that's had 2-3 groups in there, and they just don't get back to them. They don't follow up with them, and they just pretty much forget about them. And that's very, very concerning to me. You should, if you're going to do this type of work, you need to be able to commit and be loyal to these cases. Now, that's why in the beginning I told you, if you're going to get involved, make sure that it's going to be worth your time and your energy to do so. So if you're going to commit to a case, commit. If not, just tell them you'll pass on their information to another local team and wish them the best. But I go in there, I do an initial preliminary survey every time. You do a baseline sweep, you do the interviews, you check out the home, you check out, all the potential things that can explain away this phenomena. You explain to them what you do, what your process is up front, and you explain what you're doing while you're there. And you want to be very professional. You don't want to come in there acting like you're a super duper Ghostbuster team, and you may want to be careful about, if you sense things or pick up on things, you want to be careful about how you act when you discover these things, and how you tell the client what's going on when you do find stuff. A lot of clients may have fear of these things. There's a lot of cases where maybe the husband doesn't believe and thinks it's horseshit, where the wife thinks it's as real as anything. So a lot in those situations, you got to tailor how you present things to the man, and then tailor how you present things to the woman. Okay, so many different things could happen. So I think when we go in, I just try to be as professional and as open and objective as possible. You want to make the process slow. You want to be very clear that this process is slow. You're going to be very meticulous, and you're going to take your time. You're going to be willing to convey to them that you're going to commit to their case and investigate this phenomena over a period of time. If they're telling you stuff happens every day, they're seeing stuff every day, hang out for a couple hours or a amount of time that will let you know if what they're saying is true. Okay, so if you hang out there for a few hours and nothing happens, and they say it happens all the time, everywhere, and it doesn't, then that should tell you something. But that's what I do. I just do a preliminary survey on the phone, interview them. If it looks like they need our assistance, I go in with my mom, maybe one other person to help if necessary, but a very small team. Get all the papers signed. Now this is another thing. When you go into a residential case, you want to have a permission to investigate. You want to have a form that gives them permission to use any media that you use to document the case, video, audio, permission to use their identity. Sometimes you want to have permission that have a form that protects their identity. Okay, so you may be able to release any evidence that you gather, but you keep their address, their names, their faces all private. So whatever the setup is, I think it's always important to keep everything private. When you start putting your residential cases out there on your media platforms, I think it causes more problems than good. Some cases will be okay and helpful to others if they do see it. Other people experiencing similar issues at their home may see that you're helping another one and not feel alone in their situation and reach out to you. And others may see how you deal with these things, learn from you, or point out potential constructive feedback to you. Those things can be helpful, but in my experience, when I've done this, it's caused more harm than good. So if you are going to do residential cases, take my advice. Just keep it under wraps. But have some forms. If you can't find generic forms on the internet, the ones that I'm talking about, just message me and I can send you the templates to the ones we use. But very, very, very good things to have. Anything over there on the comment side that we need to address?
Buzzard asks, have you been on many investigations where a family member was possessed?
No. Nope.
Okay. Wake Paranormal is on and Christy's on.
Hi guys. Thanks for joining us. Everybody that is joining us right now, really appreciate it. This topic, it's very interesting to me. I have some helpful things that I've learned, so hopefully you guys can learn from that, and I want to learn from you guys. If there's anything that you've experienced that we haven't already discussed, just jot them down in the comments, and we'll engage that comment and kind of, turn it into a, discussion on the show.
But that's it for YouTube. That's the only questions.
All right. Anything on Facebook?
No, just still talking. They're having a big discussion about LLC versus nonprofit cost and efficiency wise. I kind of threw in there how the LLC the cost of your LLC is going to vary depending on what state you're in and where your team is actually based out of.
Right.
And then they're kind of kicking that back and forth for cost and liability wise, and which one works better for whom versus whom it doesn't work for.
Let me ask you a question, Derek. Have you, prior to being an interface death, have you had any bad experience at a residential case that you've learned from that you would use as a learning tool in a discussion topic?
Yeah, actually a few. We did a couple residentials that just kind of, it was one of the things where it was word of mouth. Go check this place out. These people contacted somebody else who then contacted us, and we kind of took their word for it that, something was really going on. And you show up, and right out of the gate, it's kind of that situation. You get out of the car and you've never met them before because you took a friend's advice on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk up, you're like, this is not good. you just got that feeling this is going to be really bad.
Right.
And we had one where it was supposed to be extremely active, had a lot of stuff going on, and throughout the night we got nothing. And about halfway into the investigation, the owner of the residence decided to inform us that she had been battling a bed bug problem. So, I kind of stopped everything right there and was like, okay, let's pack up and get the hell out of here. And I ended up burning about $300 worth of stuff when I got home because we had no way to really check it to see if we had any type of little varmints follow us home.
Wow, that's something that I probably would have never brought up on this show, but that's definitely something that you need to consider.
Yes. When you don't really vet the people that you're going to go into their residence and you don't do interviews, you rely on somebody else to gather the information and report back to you, and they don't gather the information correctly, you run into situations like that. And that's kind of what happened with us. Was we relied on somebody else to get everything set up and get the information, and they didn't get all the information.
Right.
And it was like, trust me, you really want to hurt somebody after something like that, because it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. If you go in there when you start your initial sweep, definitely something to look out for. Mm-hmm. Check for pests that you could transfer from their house to your house. Anything like that. Any health risk you should definitely be aware of. That's good, very good advice.
Right.
Heather Elliott has a very good question.
I see it now. It says, what should you look for in a house that may be the cause of activity as far as something that could be affecting someone's mental state? For example, mold, pesticides, water contamination, medications, etc.
Well, she listed some of the things you definitely should check for. Other things, carbon monoxide, any type of gas leak, high EMF, which is debatable. You can have a list of things that you have found, that you have encountered, that have explanations for people that experience things. But as far as their mental state, yes, black mold any chemicals that you can come in contact with, medications for sure. It should definitely be on everybody's questionnaire about what medications they take, a whole list, because a lot of times people will take medications that don't agree with each other, and they have crazy side effects because of that. So definitely you need to be something, and you need to let them know up front, hey, we're investigating everything. You got to be very thorough, and maybe you get somebody in your group that has some pharmacology knowledge or some type of medical knowledge. We have a few people that are trained EMTs in the group that definitely can help out in that area. I know Christy, my wife, she was a pharmacy tech. She was going to actually follow that as a career, and it was a subject of interest of mine. Knowing all the side effects and everything for a lot of pharmaceuticals that people use. So that is very, very useful information. Playing the psychiatrist as a role in a paranormal investigation is very, very key. Hey Jamie, what's going on? You have to know psychology. You have to know some things. You can't just do research in just the paranormal. You have to know a lot of different fields, okay? Because you're investigating their home for all these potential explanations, okay? And they could definitely be medical. They could definitely be psychology, dealing with psychology. So make sure that's on the protocol every time you go out. Anything on YouTube that I didn't see?
No, there's no questions.
Okay. All right. So, what can we do? What do you guys think is the best way to present something to a client where they already have a pretty stern belief that something is paranormal? You need to ask yourself why you're there. When they tell you, hey man, my house is haunted, you got to get over here and check it out. I know it's haunted. This, that, and that, and the other, and that, and this, and the other. You have to pretty much tell them up front, well, if you know it's haunted, you don't need me to investigate. I can do a cleansing if that's something your group does, or I can offer somebody who does those sort of things to other groups to see if they want to take on your case. But don't feel like you have to go and investigate something if they're already convinced they're experiencing a haunting. So make sure that you let them know that you're going to be going in there trying to explain away everything if possible. And if that's something they're not interested in, and that's something your group does, don't do it. Just, be kind, be considerate of their situation, and just don't do it. I have a question for Justin. How did he get so damn sexy? Get your vision checked, Joe. That's what my answer to that question is. You need to know how to deal with people. Having some sort of knowledge with like a human resource background or public relation background, even business management degrees and schooling and training can help. Dealing with the group internally and dealing with clients. I have a lot of clients that will come, and if I tell them I can't immediately get to their case, they'll want to rush you in. Learn how to deal with problematic clients and deal with people in a way that's tailored to their individual case. If something seems like there is a touchy situation, or there is a person who exhibits some type of behavior that could be potentially volatile if you don't handle it a certain way, you definitely want to consider how you're approaching them and how they may, tell other people about how you handle their particular case. Be very tactful, as I said before, but if you find yourself not having a lot of people skills, maybe someone in your group does. Maybe you want them to handle a lot of the client interactions and questioning and stuff like that. And maybe you might, stay a little bit in the background and do what you're good at doing if you're not good at those things. Um, you could be dealing with something that you have no idea. Something can come out of left field and just sucker punch you all of a sudden in a residential investigation. One thing that I would throw in there is it's not a bad idea to do a background search on the people you're investigating. You want to investigate the people first and foremost. Once you investigate them, you investigate the house, its history, its everything, every aspect about it. Does it have leaks? Does it have bad windows? Does it have a bad roof? Does it have, bad anything? The structural integrity of it, the age. Investigate freaking everything, okay? I mean, be very clear that you're going to take your time and be very thorough with an investigation. Now, a lot of times I have provided a form after the fact that gives them a rundown of everything that we experienced, all the stuff that we discovered or didn't discover. Just per case, you want to let them know, say, hey, we were very thorough, we did this, we did that. Present them with an actual, log and form of everything that you did, everything you found, everything that you concluded at the end of each investigation. I think that's a very professional thing to do, and it shows them and gives them some kind of closure, and they have something physical to look at and say, hey, this is what they did. They can kind of evaluate what you did and, judge you based on what you presented to them. When it comes to evidence, okay, that's something we need to talk about, right? And we got 10 minutes left on the show. So if you get evidence, what you believe is evidence of something paranormal at these people's house or homes or business, how you present it is very important, in my opinion. If you find something you can't explain that you think is anomalous, please don't tell them what you believe it is. Only tell them what you know. Tell them that this is something in our video that we can't explain. Is it a ghost? We don't know. But it looks like something you reported. So it could mean that it's paranormal, or it could be something that you seen and we seen, but we just don't know what it is. Kind of present it to them like that. Audio recordings, same way. Do the exact same thing. And another thing I want to stress, guys. Another thing. I see Christy's got to quit. Oh, she's got a comment. We'll address hers in a second. But, okay, this is something I did really bad at in the beginning. A client calls you up, says, hey, something's going on. I hear footsteps. I hear voices. Blah-de-da-de-da-de. They tell you what they experience. They report it to you. You go to their house, and then you start conducting EVP sessions and ITC sessions. First off, you should be investigating what they report. Most of these, 99.9% of everybody who reports paranormal phenomena to you as a residential client, are not doing their own EVP sessions, and they're not talking to ghosts through radios or apps. Now, paranormal pulp culture has, sunk in now, so some of them are. But that's another topic. But when you go in there, if they're not experiencing voices on recorders or telephones, or if they're not talking to ghosts through radios, don't do that at their home. You could definitely cause things to be worse. Only investigate what they experience and nothing outside of that. Doing cleansings is good, but, trying to figure out what's going on through some type of research means is 99.9% not good. So I would suggest that no one do those things ever in a paranormal investigation. And I know that's hard, and I know that might seem, a lot of people might not agree with that, but that's what I would suggest. What was this last thing I was going to bring up? Yeah, I mean, having some type of, seance or ITC session. I mean, in some rare cases, it's I think it's okay. And one of the cases is that I remember in 2014, uh, I have spoken about on the show before. A father had lost his daughter, and she died in the home, and he was trying to contact her, and he specifically called me there to do that, to make contact with her to figure out if it was her. So in some cases, I do believe it's ethical and called for, but most cases not. But you want to be careful when your clients are asking you to do that. So to wrap up this show, we're going to go back to the comments, see if we can pull anything out there that we can address, or bring up anything on your end, Jess.
Chrissy just said that she preferred you do a background check on the people, just because would like to know what they're dealing with, you all dealing with going into the house. Nowadays, you never know.
Safety, safety, safety.
Safety doesn't wait for you, Justin Brown.
Safety doesn't what?
Doesn't wait for you.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's about it. Sam's on as well. She just joined, I believe.
Fashionably late. Kelly Spalding's got a question on Facebook. Let's go to her.
Oh, Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, she actually said forgot. Oh man, and then the comment that I've got was, she said, I talked to my girl. If something happens that's out of the ordinary, I ask her to stop.
Okay, repeat that.
She said, I talked to my girl. If something happens that's out of the ordinary, I ask her to stop.
Stop what?
I have no idea.
It's Justin. Remember our phone call?
Mm-hmm.
It's that I guess when Kelly's thinking that something's going on, she asks the little girl to stop doing what she's doing.
And it listens, like from what you said, that it does listen.
That I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm curious to know if it listens to her.
Sure.
She said spirit.
Right.
So she's okay.
Yeah, well, I had to think about it for a second. Jess, help me out with that.
Yeah, then she said yes, Jess. So she's watching and responding.
It's interactive television.
Exactly.
That's right.
Now, Heather Elliott asked another question. She said, has anyone experienced the client taking the possible evidence you shared with them and then trying to sell it to a TV show for gain or twist it into something that it isn't? Should you share and then not let the client have the files? Do you put in your paperwork that this cannot be shared?
That is a very good idea.
That's a very good question, because I'm sure that has happened along the lines.
Oh yeah, my ghost story and paranormal witness fucking leech off everybody.
Right.
Yes, Heather. Yes, but I have not experienced that. But that's definitely an issue, and I'm glad that you're here to bring that up. Heather's in the Ghost Guild, and from what I've seen, their members, they're smart.
Oh yeah.
They're sharp. I like to see groups out there that they're doing good work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool to see the documentation that they have, if they have documentation like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the confidentiality form. It's written in the form that we have. What you get is yours, and they can't publish it or use it without your permission. So it's baked into the form that you use.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely. Anything else going on Facebook?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks guys for moderating the chat once again. I really appreciate it. You guys did great.
Sure.
Anytime.
That's awesome. So I'm going to close out the show. Another one in the books. You guys just hang in there, and I'll be with you in a moment. All right, guys. Another one in the books. Another good show. A lot of great questions. A lot of good discussion. That is absolutely perfect, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what I want you guys to do on the show. I want you to keep it coming, keep engaging, keep giving feedback. I love it. I learn from each and every one of you every single show. It makes me better, and hopefully I do that for you too. So you guys are in my heart. I respect you guys, and you are very, very helpful to me. But if you guys don't already know, and you're interested, you can check out the paranormal work I do along with my group at interfacedeath.net. We're constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly changing to be better each and every time we go out and do it. Please consider going over there. The link is in the description of this video. But we will switch over to Patreon. Why is Patreon important? Well, it's the only way we can get financial support for those who are willing to do so to help keep this content where it is, potentially make it better, and support what we do, because what we do is not free, it's not cheap, and they make this content possible. So if you are interested in these live shows, this interaction, this education that we give each other, if you're interested in all the, scientific and paranormal research that we do, if you want to see the video productions that we do keep pumping out, a lot of stuff's free on YouTube. There's a small percentage that's not. But if you want to see it continue, go to patreon.com/support interface death, and you can donate as little as $1 a month, or there's other tiers that give rewards for what you pledge. So we shout out our patrons on every show: Christy Brown, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, Matt Benton, Danette Goldtrip, Landon Wells, Paranormal Research Team, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Jessica Bias, RJ Murphy, Liz Coy, Bill Davis, Scotty Fox, and Scott and Kelly Carter had pledged on Patreon too. I haven't got their names up there, but they wanted to pledge on Patreon, and they're group members, so they wanted to be recognized too. So there you have it, guys. Thank you. I'm going to leave it there. Next time on Necromancer, we have Jay and Maria Yates. Check that out. You guys have a good one. I will see you next time.
What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses and wait to see if you hear things and observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we didn't hear it again.